Welcome to Sacred Spaces. My name is Nicolette Talernia and I'm here with architect Adam Hannon, interior designer Wayne Dixon and school principal Alastair Brown to talk about the Adelaide Botanic High School project. It's fair to say that this is not your standard high school, and as we stand here on Frome Street, which is your primary address, I wonder if you can talk me through how this school responds to its unique site.
Well, firstly, it's a remarkable location for a new public school. It is set in the beautiful Adelaide Parklands, but it's also connected to a major university precinct, riverbank, the North Terrace Cultural Precinct, and lots of public transport. So I think if you were to handpick a location for a new public high school, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better site.
Absolutely. And Alastair, what opportunities does this provide to you as an educator?
Look, I think there's a number of possibilities, but I guess the actual design enables us to actually achieve a 21st century curriculum. We've had that in pockets within our schools, but this enables us to have a whole school that's designed to achieve that. And its location as well enables us to connect with an amazing precinct, with our universities, our botanic gardens, our museums, our art galleries, etc. So it is unique from that perspective.
And Wayne, I'm noticing that there's a lot of glass and a lot of transparency in this facade. Can you talk to me about how that translates into the interior design work that you've done inside?
Yeah, so access to natural light, to views in and out were really important, and there are other themes which we've implemented here along flexibility, adaptability, collaboration, and a range of other things, and we'd certainly like to show you some more once we get inside.
Fantastic, let's go inside and have a look. Well, here we are in the main entry space, the atrium of the school. And Adam, talk to us about the way this space connects the existing building that was on the site and the new building.
Yeah, well, interestingly, when we inherited the site, it came with an existing building asset, which was the Reed building, built in 1968. And I'm not sure if you get a sense in this space, but actually half of the overall learning program is in fact that existing Reed building. So we came up with this idea of creating a new building to the south, and then the central space, I guess that community heart space, which we call the Atrium. And that atrium would interconnect the two buildings and create the opportunity for the vertical learning program.
What a fantastic outcome. It's a beautiful space, and students use this for teaching and for informal gathering.
Yeah, it's intended as a gathering space and as a social space, but also opportunities for formal and informal learning. The amount of daylight penetration of the space is really important. The fact that there's lots of timber, it feels really warm and welcoming, and is, I guess, a comfortable space for people when they arrive at the school.
Fantastic. Well, we've made it halfway up the active stair, I believe you call it. Is that correct?
We call this piece the furniture piece within the active atrium. So you're right, it is a stair, it's a movement system. It's a very visually obvious way to move up through the building. We wanted to encourage the students to use that rather than lifts. It is a furniture piece in that it's got a whole range of functions, and we're sitting in one of the spaces here where the students can dwell. Large groups, small groups, there's a variety of spaces here on the furniture piece. Yes,
and I've heard that the little sunken seating area below us is a very popular spot for students.
I believe so. Alastair, the principal's reported that, as hoped, it's been a popular space for the students to hang around.
Fantastic. We're also getting a sense of this connection between the two sides of the teaching spaces, either side of the atrium. So can you talk to us some more about how that works and the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of aspects to that. One is the materiality. You can see obviously there's a lot of timber here. That's to soften and warm the space up, give it a bit more of a human characteristic. You can also see in some of the shots there's a lot of perforation both in the timber and in the plasterboard. So there's a very large volume, and it had the potential to be quite an uncomfortable space acoustically, so a lot of time and effort went into achieving a better quality space with all of that perforation. We've talked about the natural light in this space via the ETFE roof, which is also really important. In a structural sense, or in a aesthetic sense as well, we've got a number of pods on both sides of the buildings, in the existing rebuilding to the north and the new building to the south, and these are about the learning programs talking to one another across the atrium and connecting those spaces.
Alastair, this is clearly not your standard classroom environment. Can you talk us through how the staff and students are responding to this very different learning environment?
Yeah, look, I think this is a great example. Our staff are embedded in the learning environment with the students, and the students have total access to our staff at any given time. Quite a challenge and a new way of working for staff, but I think the exciting part is that this now connects right into the learning area, and the students feel that total connection with staff. There's also that really strong sense that the space that we have enables us not to be in individual classes but to collaborate as groups, and then have that total connectedness to being able to move into a laboratory, not book into a laboratory but have some students working in here, some in there, and that sense of flexibility that comes with it. So the learning here is very much connected. It's connected in the way that we don't look at just doing mathematics or just doing science, but we connect the learning together, and the spaces enable that to occur, so that students can work in small groups, but very instantly we can move to another space and have a closed-in space for explicit instruction. The furniture was purposely selected. It was designed to be very mobile so that we can change the space very quickly, but also to give our students that choice of height, comfort, length of sitting on an item, so that it's not a homogenous space where we're dictating that every table is the same and every seat is the same.
So you're really catering for a range of different learning styles and different teaching methodologies?
Absolutely, and I think when we explore the world that our children will go into, they'll go into working areas where they do have that choice. They will collaborate in those spaces, they will work in shared spaces, and we're creating that virtual world for them within a school setting. And so we've often heard, you wait till you get out into the real world. Well, this school is the real world for our children.
So it's definitely a classroom that I would love to have been in when I was a student learning. Are there particular parts of this space that people particularly enjoy, or are you finding that they're really exploring all the different learning options?
I think what we've really started to understand is that good design enables young people to really enjoy the space that they're in. And you can't underestimate that a classroom is a classroom, but at the same stage, having a view like we have out the side here really creates that sense of belonging to the environment that we're in. And so that visual connection is really very much a part of our learning connection as well. So when we talk about being a part of the real world, our students feel that they're both inside and outside at the same time, and highly connected to the environment around them.
And so how was the relationship that you formed with the design team and the construction team part of achieving this amazing outcome?
I think that's probably one of the unique aspects of the school, because before the school was even designed, there were 200 educator days to really explore what does the learning look like for futures focused learning, and then how does the design actually respond to that, rather than a traditional sense, which is designing a building and then fitting the learning into it. So we've really been blessed and given an opportunity to be able to do something quite different, because the learning was designed, the building was designed around that learning. And to have architects who actually taught pedagogy as much as teachers was a real powerful part of that process.
Fantastic. It's certainly produced a very unique outcome, and one that you appear to be working with to provide your students with a really rich learning environment.
And I think, from my perspective, it would be an absolute travesty if we don't push this building to its absolute limit in terms of learning, because we've been given a unique space, a space that we need to grow into, but already we're seeing the power of that space in terms of being able to do the things that we've always dreamt of doing, but have been held back by the spaces that we've been provided with. It's
the sort of space which you just want to come to school in.
Absolutely. Hence I'm here every day, early, and here late.
Alastair, you mentioned when we were downstairs the importance of interdisciplinary learning, and I'd like you to expand on how this building assists you in delivering that program.
Yes, certainly can. Traditionally, we've learnt in silos, so we've gone to a room and we've learnt mathematics, or we've gone to a room and learnt science. The design here has enabled us to really connect the learning so that for a real-world learning experience, you don't do mathematics for 40 minutes a day. You actually do it connected to something else. And I think the connection here allows us to see, for example, an art space connected to a STEM space. And it really brings home that notion of not learning in separate areas, but learning as a whole learning precinct, bringing that together with the way that the students actually are challenged around their learning, so that they're starting to see things as problem-based, interconnected, rather than I'm just learning this because it's what I need to learn in school. So I think that's the reality for us, but the visual connectivity also supports our teachers. So we can have graduate teachers working with WISE mentors. Traditionally they would be in separate spaces. Here they're working together, and our WISE teachers are learning new energetic skills, and our graduate teachers are learning from our WISE teachers. So there's a real connectivity between our teachers that raises their capacity as well.
Sounds like a very holistic and well-considered approach.
It is, and it's very different for a South Australian school in that we feel like we are living in a community in a single building in our own house together. And there's some challenges with that we're working well with, but it's a different way of working, and staff don't come ready to do that. So a lot of work's gone into helping them understand how to use the space, how to live in the space. And I think towards the end of our first year, we really feel that it's well worth it. You know, we're seeing the impact in learning, we're seeing the way that students are engaging with their learning, but we're also seeing massive growth with our teachers as part of that process as well.
Yes, because teaching can be a very private, solitary endeavour, and this is definitely not a private, solitary type of space, is it?
No, it can be a very lonely thing as well, where it's just you and a group of students. But in this scenario, our staff are collaborating together. So this morning, they are working together, and every single day of the week, they work together before the students arrive as part of that. And I think the other part that we're seeing is that you can't come to school with your D game or your E game, it's your A game always, because when you work with others, you can't afford to actually let the others down as part of the team.
So it's a really very different methodology, and one that sounds like it's producing some fantastic results.
It is, and I think when we look at what we're starting to see in terms of results, although we're putting a lot of effort in, it's so rewarding to actually see how our young people are responding to it, and actually knowing that it's setting them on a pathway for their future rather than the pathway towards the past.
And it's noticeable. This is a school that's been in continuous occupation now for a year, and it's looking really well cared for and respected, and that's a sign that people are really responding well to their environment.
Yeah, I think when you give people a quality environment, and in schools we've not done that well in the past, they respond well to it. And it really values students, and it says, we want you to be here, we want you to be part of something, and we've created something important for you. And we see the response to that.
Fantastic, and I'm sure the teachers are feeling that too.
They are. They are. Exhausted, but feeling it.
Teaching is not for the faint-hearted.
No, but it's a very rewarding career and profession. And I think one of the things that I've been really excited about is just how our staff have responded to the space. And there's that constant, yes, we can attitude, rather than, oh, we've always done it this way. So we've had a really lovely change in mindset around teaching, and a real preparedness to have a go at things, even to the point where we put a moratorium on school visits from educational institutions or other schools for the first 6 months to give our staff the freedom to explore and learn how to use the space rather than just try and make the work look good because we were going to have visitors.
Yeah, so as a school principal, this is an amazing opportunity for you. Has this been something that you've hoped to be able to do in your career, you know, leading up to this point?
I think for most of my career I've been a frustrated architect and builder, and in many ways I've knocked walls out of buildings, I've changed spaces. What this has given me is the ability to focus on the learning rather than the building, because we now have a space that enables us to do that.
Alistair, thanks so much for sharing your time and your thoughts about this wonderful project with us today. And just in conclusion, can you share with us your sacred space in this building?
Oh, that's an easy one for me. The active atrium for me is definitely my sacred space. Each morning when I arrive, I find myself just stopping for a little while, having a look and just going, wow, this is an amazing space. But I think at the end of the day, as I walk out, I do the same thing, but reflect on how it's become the living heart of our school. And that when you dwell in it, you actually see everything that's going on around you. And for our students, I quite often see them come into that space and it's almost as if they just relax, it goes quiet, and they sort of just gaze around for no real purpose other than it just feels nice. For me, that's a really special area.
Good choice. Thanks, Alistair.
Thank you.
We're on one of the link bridges across the atrium. Adam, can you tell us about the vertical and horizontal connection that exists within the building?
Yeah, well, I guess the vertical program creates an opportunity to connect like a normal horizontal school wouldn't offer. So there's a lot of horizontal connections and vertical connections, and that's both physical and through transparency of lots of glazing. And that really creates a really integrated and activated learning environment.
And so do you find that that's something that you would try in other school environments, or is this very particular to this project?
Well, I think because you have got that vertical arrangement of spaces, it is a unique opportunity, and as you get a sense, a lot of the spaces connect and look into each other, and you probably wouldn't get that in a traditional school. But again, we've really tried to leverage that opportunity as much as we can.
So it really creates a sense of amazing connectedness around this atrium that's the heart of the school. Are you pleased with the way this has turned out? Are you happy about the way people are using this space?
Yeah, I think most people, when they visit the school for the first time, the atrium, that central space, is really what they gravitate to because of the lightness and the welcoming feeling that it gives people. But I really like being in some of these upper level spaces, and you get this feeling of stretching those views through. You can stand on one side, you can see all the way through, and you're connected to both parklands but also this central space. So I think it's one of the unique outcomes that we've managed to achieve.
Fantastic. And we've been hearing from Alistair about the connected learning and the opportunities that provides him as an educator. As a designer, how did you explore those opportunities, and how did you come to reach this conclusion?
Look, it was a long and really interesting and at times challenging journey. I think we reflected after the fact that we had perhaps over 300 days of discussions about pedagogy and space with educators and as design professionals. It was a really enlightening and enriching process, I guess. It's also worth mentioning that the brief for this project was to create a STEM-focused school. So that's obviously science, technology, engineering and mathematics, but we took that notion perhaps a little more broadly and thought about it in the context of interdisciplinary learning more generally. So the way the educational planning is working to respond to that, and what Alistair's building on now and doing some really creative things with, was to have specialty teaching spaces paired with flexible learning areas, and also next to learning commons, which are untimetabled informal learning spaces. And the way those things all interconnect and give the educators the opportunity to really use whatever modality or pedagogical approach that they want to, that was really the success, and I think one of the interesting things about this project.
It certainly must be posing some interesting challenges, I would have thought, for timetabling from a school perspective, which they appear to be embracing. From a design perspective, was this an opportunity to really expand on how you approach a school project?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this is obviously a vertical learning environment and quite different to a horizontal one, where you might traditionally have a block of classrooms that are devoted to a specific discipline, say art or science. In a vertical environment, we can stretch those things throughout and scatter them through the vertical program and really get some interesting relationships and unusual kind of dynamics between those things to connect those disciplines. So that was one of the outcomes.
It sounds like an amazing opportunity, and one that you've grasped with both hands.
It was a big team involved to achieve it, and I think we've reflected on that a lot. Over 20 people in terms of design professionals, and a much broader community in terms of an educational stakeholder group that helped inform the design. So yeah, it was a massive team effort by everyone, and here we are in the result. Really
positive, collaborative effort to get this building to be the wonderful outcome it is, and that seems to be translating into the way the staff and students are using the building, so I'd count that as a great outcome.
Yeah, that collaboration notion is a really interesting one, because it was certainly a theme for the planning of the school. It was certainly a characteristic of the design team and the way we worked with the client, and every project is only ever as good as its client, and in this case we had a fantastic client and one who had a very open and progressive brief. And then you're right, in terms of the planning outcome and the way the students and the educators are using the space, it is about collaboration and visibility and connectivity, so pretty exciting.
It's a great built outcome as well, Adam, so did that collaboration extend to the contractor as well?
Yeah, look, it certainly did. We're very fortunate to have a great builder to bring the design to life. So Lend-Lease were the contractor who we worked with, and I think, as Wayne mentioned about the collaborative partnership with our client, that collaboration then extended to the builder. They joined the table, they put in their ideas on the design and how they were going to bring it to life, and they worked through the construction process. And I think, you know, the quality that they've delivered and everything they've achieved, everyone can see it's really made a huge difference, and you kind of need that partnership approach.
It's great to hear clients, architects and builders all working together in such a positive and collaborative way to achieve really great results.
Yeah, I think that the culture of the team was probably the thread that worked all the way through, and our client was a big part of setting that culture at the start, and we bought into that process and joined that culture, and anyone who joined the table joined part of that culture as well, and that was probably the reason, and probably the big reason, the success of this project.
we spoke when we were at the front of the building about the institutional university context, but up here on the roof terrace, I'm seeing a huge connection to the parklands.
Yeah, I guess at the front of the school it was about connecting to the urban city, but out the back it's really about the parkland setting, and we've got the zoo, the Botanic Gardens and Frome Park. It's an incredible landscape setting for the school.
Yeah, it feels like when you're in the building but also out here that you're really up amongst the treetops.
Well, what we're standing on is actually a trafficable roof terrace on top of the gym. And we've put in a concrete slab and made it trafficable. We've put a landscape edge around the side with lots of planting to soften it and really create, I guess, an elevated garden for the students.
So Wayne, this is not what I was necessarily expecting in an inner city vertical school, is this wonderful outdoor space that connects into teaching areas and provides a fantastic resource for the staff and students.
Yeah, look, it was really important, particularly in the vertical school context, to have some really high quality outdoor spaces. So as Adam said, we used the opportunity of the top of the gym here for an outdoor space intended to be perhaps more of a passive play space for students. Got this lovely landscaped edge. We've got this raised deck here which could be a performance space. We've also behind me got some covered weatherproof spaces, outdoor learning areas which connect directly into some timetabled spaces beyond, so that inside-outside connectivity can happen really easily and seamlessly.
Yeah, seamlessly is certainly the word that comes to mind. Does this roof terrace also provide some environmental benefits? Because I know the building has amazing environmental credentials.
Yeah, well, there's certainly some thermal advantages in having a solid trafficable roof on top of a gym. Conditioning of the gym space underneath would be a lot more challenging without this thermal barrier on top. And of course, anywhere you're providing planting and green in the environment is also good for the sustainability aspects of the school.
So further to the sustainability question, yes, it is a 5-star Green Star project, which is really exciting, a first for public education in South Australia.
So what are the design initiatives that help you achieve that 5-star Green Star outcome?
Obviously indoor air quality is a big thing, and particularly for learning environments, so things like low VOC paints and Gecko furniture and all those sorts of things. Obviously we've got quite an elaborate system with regard to mechanical services and the way that works, and certainly the way it draws in fresh air and expels air out of the building. And perhaps Adam might elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of active systems in the building. There's solar collection, there's water collection, and the whole, I guess, building energy management system has been considered as part of that. We like to think of the school as an education tool in its own right. So the kids learn about the environment, they learn about energy use. Every time they have a bottle of water, they know about water consumption, and every time they turn on a light fitting or open a window to get some natural ventilation through the space, they're aware of what that does to the sustainability footprint of the learning environment.
So one of the other design principles related to that was this notion of the exposed services strategy within the learning environments, which we've obviously seen in some of the spaces we've been into, where you can see surfaces ducts, cable trays. So the kids are really seeing everything that's going on and how the building works, and it's really a teaching tool in its own right.
It really strikes me that this is an amazingly comprehensive and so beautifully thought out as a design solution, and that you've had this amazing opportunity, but you've also made the most of it at every turn. So Adam, what's your sacred space in this building?
Look, it's a really difficult question, Nicolette, because there are a lot of spaces that I feel kind of personally connected to, but I think given where we're standing, I'm actually going to go with the roof terrace, because you're connected to the incredible landscape environment, you're connected to the city, but you're also connected to all the learning spaces inside.
Fantastic. And what about you, Wayne? Where's your sacred space?
So my sacred space would be the forum space, which is just on the ground floor level next to the main entry, which is a gathering space where you could get some peer-to-peer learning, or you could have a visiting guest speaker. It seats about 60 people. It's part of the atrium, but it's its own little space. It's sunken down a little bit. That would be my sacred space in the school.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Wayne and Adam, for sharing this amazing project with us and some of the thinking that's gone into making it such a successful outcome. You've been watching Sacred Spaces. I'm Nicolette, and we look forward to seeing you next time.